Here comes the, here comes the, here comes the. Y'all don't really want it like that. Yeah. Here comes the, no. Here comes the, oh. Here comes the. Y'all don't really want it like that.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Drop Goal Podcast. On today's episode, we are joined by rugby league legend, New Zealand Rugby League International. It's the man himself, Kevin Tamati. Welcome to the podcast, mate. How are you?
Morning, Stephen. Very well, thank you. Sorry about all the mess-ups in the
Not to
past,
worry.
but yeah, we've managed to get together. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be good. So glad to have you on the show today. Without wasting any more time, let's begin. As a young lad growing up in New Zealand, which is known for its rugby talent, at what age did you first start enjoying the sport of rugby league?
Oh, rugby league, for me, it was, I was a late starter. I, in fact, got bullied into playing rugby league.
Okay.
For all my school time, I was a rugby union player,
All right.
and I had dreams and desires
Yeah.
to be an All Black.
Oh, wow.
And so um, I went through primary school and high school playing in the first 15s. And then when I left high school, I moved down to Wellington
Okay.
and got introduced to the Petone Rugby League Club in
Yeah.
Wellington, and where I began my education in rugby league.
Nice. Okay. And growing up as a young lad, did you have a favourite Australian/New Zealand rugby team?
The Kiwis.
Of course, of course.
Had to be the Kiwis.
Yeah, definitely. And was there any particular moment in rugby league when you started to join the sport that caught your attention the most, which helped you fall in love with the game a little bit more?
It was when they started playing the World Cup games.
Yeah.
So when New Zealand were involved in the World Cup games in '71, I think it was,
Okay.
the tournaments were held in England and France and Australia,
Yeah.
and rugby league caught my attention then.
Great. So obviously you moved to Wellington. I think it was around 1971, and that's when you took up rugby league. Like you said, you joined the Panthers, the Peyton Panthers, I believe that's how you say
Yeah,
it.
Petone.
Petone Panthers. Okay.
Petone Panthers.
Yep.
Yes.
At this point in your career, would you say that you knew you'd had what it takes to become a professional rugby league player, or were you still playing the game for a bit of fun?
Um, really, when I got to Wellington, when I got to Petone,
Yeah.
the place that I was hosted at, or I was renting at,
All right.
said to me that if I lived in the place that I was in and I worked at the place that I was in, I
Yeah.
had to play rugby league.
Okay.
And I'm going to be an All Black. And they just told me, well, if you work here and live here,
Mhm.
you're not going to be an All Black. We're league players here.
Yeah. And that's how you fell in
Yeah,
love
I
with the
pretty
game.
much got bullied into playing the game.
Wow. So you also joined the Upper Tigers and Randwick Kingfishers, I believe. And then it was in 1973 you made the Junior Kiwis squad. When you joined the Junior Kiwis, is that when you realised you could actually make a living out of playing rugby league?
By then we had playing with Petone and then Upper Hutt. We had some success
Yeah.
in the game. We had won a couple of championships,
Yeah.
and I thought, well, yeah, I could go places
Mm.
with playing this game. So I just fell in love with it, and then started coaching, and just enjoyed the atmosphere, the climate that I was in.
And by that point, had your rugby league overtaken your previous love for Union?
Oh, that was long ago. I guess I had played for Petone when I got down to Wellington, and by the time I had left Petone, the passion for rugby league
Yeah.
was developed enormously.
Okay, so you moved to England around 1982, where you had major success with both the Widnes Vikings and Warrington Wolves. When arriving in the UK, was there a noticeable difference in the way both teams played the code compared to how Australia and New Zealand played the game?
Uh, no, for me it was very similar.
Okay,
You keep hold of the ball, and when you're in possession, and you should come out and win.
exactly, yeah,
But if you don't keep hold of the ball, then you've got to keep tackling.
yeah,
And so both Widnes and Warrington were pretty good with ball control.
yeah. Okay, and when you first started playing over in England, how does the difference in weather affect an individual's style of play, and how to move the ball compared to in Australia and New Zealand, where most of the time it's sweltering hot?
Um, yeah, well, whilst we were playing in the winter season, you had snow, you had frost, you had bloody rain,
Yeah,
you had all kinds of weather. Hey, and that's not saying New Zealand doesn't have that type of weather as well, but this was a professional game when I was in England. This
yeah,
was a professional game that is supposed to have um, a stadium that don't suffer from flooded fields or damaged fields because
yeah.
of the climate, because of the and that's what surprised me first when I came over and started playing over there.
All right, and because of the weather, was it hard to adjust to the English style of play and how to move the ball around and play effectively against the weather conditions?
Um, no, you just knew that if it was raining
Yeah,
and what the forecast was, then you had to apply yourself to those conditions. So
exactly.
all the guys knew once the bad weather was there, we just had to shut up shop and play
Yeah.
more protectively with possession.
Okay. So whilst we're on the subject of English rugby league, a lot of your successful times playing rugby league were, of course, in England. What do you think about the English game now compared to what it was like back when you were playing? And are there many major differences that you've seen in how the game is played over here now compared to back then?
I think back in the day they were players, men of real passion
Yeah.
for the game, and these days they're playing in better conditions
Mhm.
on better fields, and I'm not quite sure whether, whilst I don't want to dump down on what the guys are doing in the game today, both in Australia or even around the world, but
Yeah.
I'm one of those who is old school, so I'll stick with old school. Old school's better.
Yeah. Would you say nowadays having a large contract is more of a motivation to play the game rather than loving the sport?
Yeah, well, I don't know of anybody who has got a large contract.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, having a large contract is obviously good for the individual and their families.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then get on with it. But don't let the club down. Don't let the supporters down.
Exactly. So I'm not trying to be negative, but it's no secret at the moment that many English fans are quite disappointed with the current direction the sport over in the UK is heading. If you were the chairman of the RFL, what changes would you make in order for the game to exceed, not only for with the fans and the sport as a whole, but also in the market? How does the English game attract more fans?
Oh, croakies. Um, I think what they've got to do is make the game more attractive to the supporters.
Yeah,
And if that's not what they're doing, then they need to get off their backsides and bloody start doing it.
exactly.
Because
Go
the
on.
game is not going to last if
Yeah,
you haven't got people coming in to support.
100%. So obviously the Super League and the English side of the game are taking huge leaps at the moment with expansion to try and expand the market. What are your thoughts on the RFL's current expansion plans with Toronto Wolfpack and also newly founded Otter Races, which are coming into play in 2021? Do you think the expansion plan is good for the game?
Well, obviously, the health of the game has got to come first.
Yeah.
And if expansion is working well,
Mhm.
then I would suggest yes, continue.
Okay.
But if it's not working well and you are trying to spread the game to regions that just don't fit,
Yeah.
then you're only asking for.
Okay, so on the topic of expansion, there's also rumours floating around that the NRL are also planning to expand sometime soon. Many believe a second Brisbane club is on the way. If it was your choice, where would you like to see the next Australian club?
Well, I understand that there is also um, conversation about a second team out of New Zealand,
Okay,
but coronavirus has been here now for 6 months,
yeah,
and the one and only New Zealand team that's playing in the NRL is now domiciled in Australia,
yeah, exactly.
and all the problems that come with that. So I don't know how long coronavirus is going to be around,
Mhm.
or any other such disease,
Yeah,
but there's just going to be, for me, there's just going to be more problems in trying to keep the competition together.
yeah.
And Australia
Lost connection.
moving the game at the international level and develop the game at the international level more
Okay.
so than club level.
All right. So do you believe the NRL would financially be able to support a second club in New Zealand, especially like you said with what's going on with coronavirus at the moment?
No, I don't.
Okay.
They would be uh, just committing suicide, I guess, with the one and only team that they have, the Warriors.
Exactly, yeah. And in the current climate of the sport over in Australia and New Zealand, would you say expanding to teams in and around the Australian area is the best way to succeed in the market, or is another strategy which could be more financially stable a better way to go?
I think the strategy's got to be Australia,
Yeah,
and Australia, but it has to be in areas of the country that are predominantly rugby league players
yeah,
and supporters,
okay,
and taking the game to areas that are not of that are not au fait with rugby league
mm.
is ridiculous.
Okay, so now the NRL and Super League have both returned now with a few precautions in place both on and off the field to make sure players and their families stay safe. during the coronavirus. With the new introduction of the 6 to go rule, which has been introduced to both the NRL and Super League, and also the scrapping of scrums in Super League, do you believe these rules are here to stay?
Stephen, I wouldn't even. It really gets on my wick that they keep changing the game
Yeah,
to try and improve the speed. Um, it's they've got to get the whole game right from the
yeah.
beginning before looking to make change. So yeah, I just get frustrated with got to go quick, got to go quick. Why do you have to go quick?
Exactly. So, are you a fan of the new rules or not?
No, not.
Okay. So we'll speak about your international career now. Is it safe to say that your international career with New Zealand is something that will never be forgotten?
Yeah, well, it depends. It depends which games you look at, and yeah, but I guess the highlights you will never be forgotten. No.
100%. So you played around 40 games for the Kiwis, which includes 29 test matches, which is a pretty impressive title to hold. How did you react when you first got told that you'd be representing your country internationally for the game?
Um, Felt on top of the world.
Definitely. Uh,
Uh, nothing better, nothing better. It's always your country. It was always for me,
yeah,
my country, my people, and my representation. And for me, it was to represent in the manner that I know my people would expect of me.
exactly. And how did your family and friends react when you told them the big news?
Um, they were they were over the moon. They were absolutely rapt. That's first of all, I got the recognition of being selected as a New Zealand a New Zealand Kiwi,
Yeah.
and the rest fell in place. It was up to me to ensure that I got back into the team. So I played and I trained and I trained and I played and I played and I trained.
Yep. So now, having played in the Rugby League World Cup yourself, and there's one coming up very soon, what do you think needs to be done in order to increase and maintain the interest in the game before and after the competition?
Stephen, I think that they need to ensure that the competition has the interest of um, first the international world that they're trying to promote the game to, and
Okay.
secondly that it has to be an event that is memorable, that is enjoyable to participate in as a player and as a supporter.
Yep.
Because if people are not going to get their money's worth, they ain't going to turn up.
100%. And is there any team in particular that you think has a good shot at taking home the trophy, or will it be the same contest between Australia, New Zealand, and sometimes England?
Well, you know that those internationals are never easy to pick.
Yeah,
Um, a lot depends on where the games are being played, what type of moods the players are in,
yeah,
and whether it's roll up your sleeves and um, let's go and win this game, or geez, we've had a great tour and we've got a lot of family photos to take
yeah.
home and a lot of good memories. Depends what they want.
Okay, and a lot of people are saying that Tonga are ones to look out for this year. How did Tonga come into the competition with quite a big reputation this year after they've done quite a few things over the previous years regarding their international team.
They, through the stealth of the NRL
Hmm.
and the Super League, the number of players that Tonga have been able to plant in the competition, in the rugby league competition of both the NRL and the Super League, they're getting players who are educating themselves in the game
Yeah,
and getting better and better. And so when those players come together and play for the country that they come from,
yeah.
the performances normally rise to high levels.
Okay, and with the addition of a new competitive team in the international stage, do you think that a new team that is so competitive is a good thing for the upcoming World Cup?
Um, Stephen, I don't want to dump down on the World Cup, but if grassroots are not strong
Yeah,
and they're not they're not um working working to the lengths and depths of the game and the country in which the game is being included,
yeah.
then for me it's an attempt that is wasted.
Okay. Now I can't go without mentioning your infamous bust up with Greg Dowling. Everyone who knows the sport of rugby league has, of course, seen your fight. What exactly sparked this infamous bust up?
Mate, I'm not proud about what how that came about,
Okay.
but um, you know, regardless of who you are and where you're from,
Yeah.
and as a Maori, um, a Maori rugby league player or a Maori sportsman,
Yeah.
to be to be verbally abused
Yeah.
at in a game that is at the highest level of the game,
Mhm.
highest stage of the game, an international between two historic
Yeah.
countries, to be to be abused is it's not good for the game, and obviously, as Greg found out, it wasn't good for Greg. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's garbage as far as I'm concerned, and I don't have any qualms about how it turned out. For someone to rant and rave and to demonize me because I'm of a another ethnicity.
Yeah.
Um, for me, he got what he deserved.
Okay. And is this feud is this patched up now? Is everything okay?
No, I never. Uh, we did speak when he came to play for Wigan, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't go out of my way to cross the road to um,
Have a
piss
chat.
on him if he was on fire.
Yeah. Okay. So you won many trophies throughout your career, such as the Premiership and Challenge Cup, along with being inducted into the New Zealand League of Legends of League. Which of these honours and trophies stand out the most for you in your famous and very, very, very great career?
Stephen, they all sit. They all sit on that shelf where my photos and trophies are,
Yeah.
and so there is not one better than the other. The internationals, victories would support the Challenge Cup, would support the John Player, would support all the maybe not the Lancashire Cup.
Okay.
Maybe the Lancashire Cup is something special.
Yeah. So you also coached your beloved Kiwis, as well as a couple clubs. How difficult was it to transition from player to coach?
Oh, it wasn't difficult at all. You'd already been down that track. You knew what was required. You knew what you were looking for in players.
Yeah.
And if they didn't perform, and then you had conversations with them on how they need to perform when they get on the field. If they did it, they stayed in the team. If they didn't, they got dropped. And so, it's not only their heads on the block, it's your head on the block as coach and as head of the club to ensure that the victories, that the club was victorious.
Yeah, 100%. And do you think coaches deserve more recognition in the game than what they currently get?
I didn't think they were getting dumped on as much as you. Obviously been involved in the game a lot these days. Oh, that's strange. That's difficult actually. This morning I just watched a video on Tony Kemp.
Yeah.
Tony Kemp has gone out on Māori TV and absolutely blasted New Zealand Rugby League.
Wow.
For the lack of involvement of Māori and Pacific Island in the game of New Zealand. This is at the board level, at board table. So there's going to be some fun and games over the next 6 months.
Yeah.
And hopefully it would be for the betterment of the game. Well, in fact, it will be for the betterment of the game, because at the moment, the Pacific Islander Māori are not at that table, at that leading table.
Okay.
And if the game made up of 80% of Polynesians, then there needs to be representation at that table which depicts Polynesia and the support that the game is being given by Polynesians.
Okay, the reason I bring this up is because as a Warrington fan myself, on social media sites such as Facebook, Instagram, all of them, many fans are often slating the coach, Steve Price, for not putting, not the team not having a good enough performance on the day or losing out. So that's why I asked for your opinion. Whether it's different in Australia and New Zealand, how the fans treat the coaches, I'm not too sure.
No, it's not different. It's not different. People are supporters. They pay their money and they have the opportunity to voice their opinion. If the coach is doing well, the team is doing well, then the abuse that the coach is getting won't last long.
Yeah.
It'll all turn to his favour and he'll be getting pat on the back.
Mm-hmm.
But if the team isn't performing, then one of them needs to go. It's either the coach or the team needs to go.
Yeah. So now, away from your rugby career, after giving up the sport, you started doing work for the younger community. You're currently involved with the Hawke's Bay for Community Action, Youth and Drugs, which is a ministry health-funded program. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do to help others surrounding you?
Well, first of all, I'm the chairman of Rugby League Hawke's Bay.
Yeah.
And with that experience, I guess that I had the benefit of in the UK.
Yeah.
And in my test matches, Uh, the code, I guess, is very much after the game, alcohol and a certain extent, if you were able, there would be participation in drugs.
Okay.
I'm never been a alcohol drinker, a drug taker, smoker,
Yeah.
and so I know all the things that players and their supporters or supporters do, and it's not for me to say you can't drink, you can't smoke, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Yeah.
They need to understand that themselves, that they hold their own responsibilities, and if they choose to knock on the door of practices that are going to ensure that they're not going to be in the game long, then it's their choice.
Okay, so to finish off the podcast, we'll do some quick fire questions. So let's get started. Question 1, who's the toughest player you've come up against?
Les Boyd.
All right, question 2, did you win the fight?
Which fight? You got to remember that I was a boxer and that I had a few fights.
We'll just leave it at that then.
My mate Eddie Sizemolo was one of them.
Okay, question 3, out of all the players you've played with, who's the first to have a pint after a match?
Stephen, a pint for me was pop or fruit juice.
Okay.
I'm not a drinker.
Yeah.
I'm not a drinker or a smoker. But I guess the guys that I'd like to drink with after the game was Graham West, James Luluai, Fred Arcoy.
Yeah. All right.
All my country mates who that we could have a catch up with.
Definitely. Question 4, would you say it's harder to coach a club or a country?
Oh, I would think that a club would be more difficult because as a country, the players are already selected for you.
Yeah. All right. Question 5, which tastes better, English or Aussie food?
Hey, fish and chips is good for me.
Next question, which is harder to tackle, a huge prop or a nippy halfback?
It depends where you get them. A
Okay.
nippy halfback, if you get on top of him, you can smother him.
Yeah.
You can do the same with the prop, but it depends what number you're in the tackle on. If you're number 2, then number 2, you can smother him and you can give him love messages.
Yeah. Okay, and finally, question 7, which do you prefer, cats or dogs?
Repeat that, please.
Finally, question 7, which do you prefer, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Okay.
Dogs. I had a dog. When I was in Warrington.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when I came home, I left him with a friend, and
Okay.
I don't know whether he's still alive or.
All right. So before we finish off the podcast, do you have anything you'd like to say to the young listeners who are trying to make it in the world of rugby league?
Never give up.
All right.
Know who you are. Know what your capabilities are. Train as hard as you possibly can.
Yeah.
In that you have to train cleverly, not stupidly, not try and burn yourself out, but understand that if you are successful in the game, then your training has to support that. So don't do it all in one night. It has to be spread over the year, and it has to be planned out. But
All right.
if you are successful, then it is a worthy career.
Great, inspiring words right there. Thank you for joining us today, Kevin. It's been an honour. Good luck with your work in the community. It's a great thing to be a part of. I'm glad I've had the opportunity to speak to a rugby league legend. Hopefully I can get you back on the podcast again sometime closer to the Rugby World Cup to see your view of things. Thanks again, it's been great. Cheers for the opportunity. I hope you and your family stay safe. All the best, mate.
Thanks, Stephen. Hopefully I'll be over there for the World Cup.
Definitely. Hopefully we can get a catch up.
Indeed.
Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that.